There are websites that have made an impact on the internet as a whole in one way or another. You could think of ones like whitehouse.com, Clomath Games, LiveLeak, Craigslist, 4chan, Reddit, Twitch, YouTube, and every teenager's addiction, Facebook Marketplace. These websites that have been around for a while and known by people both young and old. Today, I talk about another website that has made an impact on YouTube, TikTok, and the internet as a whole that is shockingly shutting down. Today, I'm going to be talking about Omegle and its very recent shutdown, as well as the website's impact on the internet. If you don't know what the website Omegle is, it's a website where you get randomly set with a stranger and do a video or chat call. You don't need an account to use this website, and it's completely anonymous. For years, people of all sorts have been using this website. It gets literally millions of people every day going to it. To start with the type of people that go to this website, we can obviously start with creators, such as YouTubers, streamers, and TikTokers have all used this website to create content. Some people would go on there just to see what happens. Some would go on there to prank people, acting like they got shot or they were kidnapped or something of the sort. The most recent trend for using this site was to flirt or troll people using videos you'd play on your camera, or where your camera would be. And there was Gypsy Crusader, who we'll get back to. Some girls use this website for male validation when they're bored, as a lot of men who haven't tugged their Johnson yet that day will probably say a lot of things that they don't really mean. Some use the site for its intended purposes and just talk to strangers, but some would use the website for other reasons. With freedom comes awful people, and in this case, it would be old men who would use this as an adult or dating site to show their Johnsons to boys and girls and try to flirt with them. This was the darker side of the site, and what caused some controversy with it. All the bad stuff happens so often due to you don't need a login and you can use the website on your phone, laptop, iPad, or anything else of the sort, and it's easy for these weirder people to do this. I don't know if there was a way to ban these people or if there was a report system, as I never used the site personally. I am a man, but it was an ongoing problem and something you just had to deal with when using this site. And it was mainly known by everyone who used it that, yes, there's weird people on there and you just immediately skip them. But to go on, people have made or incredibly helped their careers online using this website, as it's one of the cornerstones of social media. Videos using this site were very popular a few years ago, and it's now become a trend again on YouTube a little bit, but it's mainly been trending on TikTok, as people would, troll and flirt like I said earlier. But with such freedom and the bad people on the internet, Omegle ended up getting into legal trouble. Omegle was just recently in a lawsuit over an anonymous woman who goes by AM being the victim of exploitation at 11 years old. She matches with a man in 2014 by the name of Ryan Scott Fordyce. I think that's how you say it. Spelled Fordyce. I don't know how you say that last part, as he's Canadian, but to go on, who at the time was in his late 30s. According to the lawsuit, they only did texting on Omegle, but then switched to Kik, which is an app with a whole story of its own, and other ways to talk to each other. For the next 3 years, the girl would be forced to send explicit photos and videos of herself in ways you could assume. Ryan made threats towards AM, saying that he would release pictures of her and get her arrested. And during this time as well, he would try to get her to get him other girls from Omegle, kind of like a recruiting process. When she would do this recruiting process, she tried her best to make it unappealing as possible so they declined the offer and not have to go through what she was going through at the time. This all lasted from the time when she was 11 to the time she was 15, when at some point Ryan seemed to slowly get bored of her and rarely stopped talking to her. I guess she got too old for him. AM was seeking damages for a lot of things, and it's a long list I'm going to read here. The list includes severe emotional distress, PTSD, panic attacks, S injury, SH thoughts, fear of commitment, inability to trust, inappropriate approval seeking, guilt, shame, anxiety, paranoia, nightmares, disassociation, hypomania, impaired familial relationships, challenges with intimacy, eating disturbances, psychogenic seizures, muscle tension, and feelings of terror. Also, from what I read, they were supposedly trying to get $22 million out of this. I don't know how true that number is, but to be honest, with lawsuits like this, I could definitely see that. She also accused Omegle of product liability, saying it lacked proper warnings, even though the website said you must be 18 years or older or have parent supervision to use the website doesn't make you verify the age or parental consent. Even though in the end, if they asked for this, it can be faked, as most, if not all of us, went on sites that said they were for 18 years or older, and we faked our ages on the websites and apps just to use them. I'm pretty sure all my fellows know what I'm talking about. But to continue, she also accused the website to be the reason for her to be trafficked and profiting off of it. Omegle responded by saying AM voluntarily provided her contact info on the website and added that on the website you are anonymous till you make it not. As well noted, their first contact was made on the site via text, and Ryan used other ways like email to get the pictures from AM. A quote from the company says, "Plaintiff aims to redirect the harm caused by Fortis and overlooked for years by her parents." They also made other statements saying security of the people using the website is one of their top concerns, and they were working on ways to fix it. In the end, they made a disclosed agreement to settle this, and the case was dismissed. And the Canadian police got a ping that certain pictures, were being shared online. They pinged and traced the IP address to Ryan's family home, and they got a search warrant, and on January 12th of 2018, Constable Pam Klassen, a forensics expert for Brandon Police Department, searched the home, and Ryan was not there at the time. Even though he wasn't there, she still successfully logged into Ryan's computer and came across his collection of not legal pictures and videos that were ordered to be sent to him. When Ryan returned home for lunch, he was arrested. Pam is quoted saying, "He was surprised and his wife thought there must have been a mistake." Police found 7 folders on his computer, all named after different girls. One of the folders had 220 pictures and videos of AM from when she was 11 to 14. Apparently, Ryan had a thing for P, as it was detailed that some of the stuff on his computer contained such actions. Pam found Alice thanks to her school uniform, which was worn or at least seeable in some of the stuff sent. In 2021, Ryan Scott Fortis, a father in his late 30s, was sentenced to only 8 years in prison in Canada for this situation. He was also found to have done this to other girls, and the police found thousands of illegal photos and videos saved on his devices in his home in 2018, and he also used Omegle to get 2 other girls. AM is now 21 and doing pretty well and even in a relationship. But Omegle didn't get as good of an ending in this situation, as now when you open up the site, a picture of a tombstone in a graveyard with Omegle's name and logo, with the headstone also saying 2009 to 2023, is shown, along with a long final message. The final message includes 2 quotes, one by C.S. Lewis and one by Douglas Adams, and then a whole personal letter from the creator. A tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. It would be better to live under robber barons than under omnipotent moral busybodies. The robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep, his cupidity may at some point be satiated. But those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with approval of their own conscience. C.S. Lewis. In the beginning, the universe was created. This made a lot of people very angry and been widely regarded as a bad move. Douglas Adams. Which I actually thought that one was pretty good and pretty funny, I'm not going to lie. I really like that one. But to go on, the final message from the creator says, "Dear strangers," which isn't like a bad thing at all. Like, he basically, like, the whole thing was like chat with strangers, and like, that's what people were called, where they're just called strangers on there. So it's not a bad thing at all whenever he says strangers. But to go on, it says, "Dear strangers, from the moment I discovered the internet at a young age, it has been a magical place to me. Growing up in a small town, relatively isolated from the larger world, it was a revelation how much more there was to discover. How many interesting people and ideas the world had to offer. As a young teenager, I couldn't just waltz onto a college campus and tell a student, 'Let's debate moral philosophy.' I couldn't walk up to a professor and say, 'Tell me something interesting about microeconomics.' But online, I was able to meet those people and have those conversations. I was also an avid Wikipedia editor. I contributed to open source software projects, and I often helped answer computer programming questions posed by people many years older than me. In short, the internet opened the door to a much larger, more diverse, and more vibrant world than I would have otherwise been able to experience. and enabled me to be an active participant in and contributor to that world. All of this helped me to learn and to grow into a more well-rounded person. Moreover, as a survivor of childhood R, I was acutely aware that any time I interacted with someone in the physical world, I was risking my physical body. The internet gave me a refuge from that fear. I was under no illusion that only good people use the internet, but I knew that if I said no to someone online, they couldn't physically reach through the screen and hold a weapon to my head or worse. I saw the miles of copper wires. Where are those, by the way? I could really use those right now. And fiber optic cables between me and the other people as a kind of shield, one that empowered me to be less isolated than my trauma and fear would have otherwise allowed. I launched Omegle when I was 18 years old and still living with my parents. It was meant to build on the things I loved about the internet while introducing a form of social spontaneity that I felt didn't exist elsewhere. If the internet is a manifestation of the quote-quote global village, Omegle was meant to be a way of strolling down the street in that village, striking up conversations with people you ran into along the way. The premise was rather straightforward. When you used Omegle, it would randomly place you in a chat with someone else. These chats could be as long or as short as you chose. If you didn't want to talk to a particular person for whatever reason, you could simply end the chat and, if desired, move on to another chat with someone else. It was the idea of quote-quote meeting new people distilled down to almost its platonic ideal. Building on what I saw as the intrinsic safety benefits of the internet, users were anonymous to each other by default. This made chats more self-contained and made it less likely that a malicious person would be able to track someone else down off-site after their chat ended. I didn't really know what to expect when I launched Omegle. Would anyone even care about some website an 18-year-old kid made in his bedroom in his parents' house in Vermont? With no marketing budget? But it became popular almost instantly after launch, and grew organically from there, reaching millions of daily users. I believe this had something to do with meeting new people, being a basic human need, and with Omegle being among the best ways to fulfill that need. As the saying goes, if you build a better mousetrap, the world will be a path to your door. Over the years, people have used Omegle to explore foreign cultures, to get advice about their lives from impartial third parties, and to help alleviate feelings of loneliness and isolation. I've even heard stories of soulmates meeting on Omegle and getting married. Those are only some of the highlights. Unfortunately, there are also lowlights. Virtually every tool can be used for good or for evil, and that is especially true with communications tools, due to their innate flexibility. The telephone can be used to wish your grandmother happy birthday, but it can also be used to call on a bomb threat. There can be no honest accounting of Omegle without acknowledging that some people misused it, including to commit unspeakably heinous crimes. I believe in a responsibility to be a quote-quote good Samaritan and to implement reasonable measures to fight crime and other misuse. That's exactly what Omegle did. In addition to the basic safety feature of anonymity, there is also a great deal of moderation behind the scenes, including state-of-the-art AI operating in concert with a wonderful team of human moderators. Omegle punched above its weight limit in content moderation, and I'm proud of what we accomplished. Omegle's moderation even had a positive impact beyond the site. Omegle worked with the law enforcement agencies and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children to help put evildoers in prison where they belong. There are quote-unquote people rotting behind bars right now, thanks in part to the evidence that Omegle proactively collected against them and tipped the authorities off to. All that said, the fight against crime isn't one that can ever truly be won. It's a never-ending battle that must be fought and refought every day, and even if you do your very best job, it is possible for you to do. You may be a sizable dent, but you won't win in any absolute sense of that word. That's heartbreaking, but it's also a basic lesson of criminology, and one that I think the vast majority of people understand on some level. Even superheroes, the fictional characters that our culture imbues with special powers as a form of wish fulfillment in the fight against crime, don't succeed at eliminating crime altogether. In the recent years, it seems like the whole world has become more orny. Maybe that has something to do with the pandemic or with political disagreements. Whatever the reason, people have become faster to attack and slower to recognize each other's shared humanity. One aspect of this has been constant barrage of attacks on communication services, Omegle included, based on the behavior of a malicious subset of users. To an extent, it is reasonable to question the policies and practices of any place where crime has occurred. I've always welcomed constructive feedback, and indeed, Omegle implemented a number of improvements based on such feedback over the years. However, the recent attacks have felt anything but constructive. The only way to please these people is to stop offering the service. Sometimes they say so explicitly and avowedly. Other times it can be inferred from their act of setting standards that are not humanely achievable. Either way, the net result is the same. Omegle is the direct target of these attacks, but their ultimate victim is you. All of you out there who have used or would have used Omegle to improve your lives and the lives of others. When they say Omegle shouldn't exist, they are really saying that you shouldn't be allowed to use it, that you shouldn't be allowed to meet random new people online. That idea is anathema to the ideas I cherish, specifically to bedrock principle of a free society that when restrictions are imposed to prevent crime, the burden of those restrictions must not be targeted at innocent victims or potential victims of crime. Consider the idea that society ought to force women to dress modestly in order to prevent R-word. One counter-argument is that R-word people don't really target women based on their clothing, but a more powerful counter-argument is that irrespective of what R-word people do, women's rights should remain intact. If society robs women of their rights to bodily autonomy and self-expression based on the actions of R-word people, even if it does so with the best intentions in the world, then society is practically doing the work of R-word people for them. Fear can be a valuable tool, guiding us away from danger. However, fear can also be a mental cage that keeps us from all of the things that make life worth living. Individuals and families must be allowed to strike the right balance for themselves, based on their own unique circumstances and needs. A world of mandatory fear is a world ruled by fear. A dark place indeed. I've done my best to weather the attacks, with the interests of Omegle's users and the broader principle in mind. If something as simple as meeting new random people is forbidden, what's next? That is far and away removed from anything that could be considered a reasonable compromise of the principle I outlined. Analogies are a limited tool, but a physical world analogy might be shutting down Central Park because crimes occur there, or perhaps more provocatively, destroying the universe because it contains evil. A healthy, free society cannot endure when we are collectively afraid of each other to this extent. Unfortunately, what is right doesn't always prevail. As much as I wish circumstances were different, the stress and expense of this fight, coupled with the existing stress and expense of operating Omegle and fighting its misuse, are simply too much. Operating Omegle is no longer sustainable financially nor psychologically. Frankly, I don't want to have a heart attack in my 30s. The battle for Omegle has been lost, but the war against internet rages on. Virtually every online communication service has been subject to the same kinds of attacks as Omegle, and while some of them are much larger companies with much greater resources, they all have their breaking point somewhere. I worry that, unless the tide turns soon, the internet I fell in love with may cease to exist, and in its place, we will have something closer to a souped-up version of TV, focused largely on passive consumption, with much less opportunity for active participation and genuine human connection. If that sounds like a bad idea to you, please consider donating to the Electronic Frontier Foundation, an organization that fights for your rights online. From the bottom of my heart, thank you to everyone who used Omegle for positive purposes, and to everyone who contributed to the site's success in any way. I'm sorry I couldn't keep fighting for you. Sincerely, Leaf K. Brooks, founder of Omegle.com, LLC. The final message is long and sad. It's a fight that just could not be fought anymore by the creator of the website, who has had it since he was 18, which is incredible to think about because that's like around the graduation age. That's the age that you're legally an adult. And a lot of my people that watch these videos are probably around that age or maybe past it, or just know of a time or where they were whenever they were 18. And this guy had a whole huge website that had so much impact on the internet at his hands. And for it to be gone by his 30s, it's kind of weird and depressing in a way. And also talking about how the internet he loved is now disappearing, or possibility of it disappearing, also brings more of a sadder tone to the final message. And also talking about how he just couldn't fight it anymore, both financially and psychologically. It sucks to see a huge stone in the wall that is the internet go down, especially one that was so different and free compared to other sites. The site's unexpected death is pretty interesting, and I don't know if there'll be another site like it. Someone could easily make another site just like it, but will it be as popular or as safe as Omegle? Sadly, with so much freedom comes bad people using it for the worst, and sometimes those worst people ruin it for all of us. Let me know what you all think about this in the comments down below. Thank you all for watching, and make sure to follow my Twitter at PERK3030. It's in the description. It always is. I was supposed to upload a different video this week, but where this just happened, I want to talk about it instead. Tell me your stories about the website in the comments down below. It's very interesting to me that people talked about how they found love off of it. If you're one of those people, let me know. Even if it wasn't like being married, if you had like a long-term relationship in person, or something of the sort, you can let me know in the comments, or know someone that did. I don't know if there will be anyone like that in my comment section, but there are people out there. As he said himself. That's also another thing that makes it a little sadder to me. A place where relationships and even marriages started is over. Make sure to like and subscribe. New video hopefully out next week about someone, if you've watched my series, you'll know of. With all that said, in the end, I'm PERK30. Thank you all for the support. Thank you for over 7,000 subscribers. I want to try to hit 10K by the end of the year. But with all that said, in the end, I'm PERK30. And have an amazing week.